As you recall in the first couple of training videos, we talked about Microsoft being a relational database. In other words, you take your database and you break it down into its smallest, most meaningful parts, or what we call over here tables. You think about all the elements you want to keep track of, or records. In this case, my computer inventory. I have a table for computers. In this table, I've added fields like the date we received the computer, the purchase price of the computer, and also the barcode or the asset tag. I have one for departments. I want to keep track of the different departments we have in our office. Human resources, which I assigned to the code of 100, IT, a sign of 200, and also the employees table, which keeps track of all the employees, their first name, last names. I could have their street address, their social security number, also how much they earn hourly or salary. And then the manufacturers, the companies we purchase our computers from. Maybe it's Global or Spytech or Dell or HP. In contrast to that, can you imagine creating a table and dumping everything into it? For example, I come up here and click on the Create tab, go to the Tables group and click on the Table button. Then I click Save and call it my TBL everything, and then hit Enter. And then in here I add, my first field could be the employee's first name, then the employee's last name, their street address, their contact, their home phone number, and then I add next to that, I continue on with the client's first name, last name, their address, how much they make a year, and then I start adding manufacturers, the computers, the orders, their details, the products. It goes on and on. You dump that all in one table, you're going to run into two problems. First of all, if you have millions and millions of records, no matter how fast your computer is, it's going to be slow trying to pull up all that information into one view here. So there's your first sign of being inefficient. The second sign is that you have to manually look through all this information to find out what you want and try to filter it that way. So again, we're back to inefficiency here. So we want to go ahead and close out of here, not even think of dumping everything into one table. And then I want to come up here and right click on the everything table and left click, and let's delete this table. So we're back to creating these separate tables that contains the smallest, most meaningful data within those tables that we want to keep track of. Now you could say, well, there's a problem with that. If I come in here in the computers table and I open it up, it just has the computer's ID, the asset tag number, the date we received, and the purchase price. It doesn't tell me which employees are assigned to what computers. And then when I go in the employees table, it doesn't have the computers. Like for example, I double click and open it up. It doesn't have the list of computers here they're assigned to, whether it's a desktop, a laptop, the asset tag number, all that. So how do you relate a table to another table? Anytime you want to relate one table to another, usually 99% of the time, you're trying to relate or make a match to that table's primary key. Remember the primary key we talked in earlier training videos, that whatever field is assigned that primary key, like the employee ID, there can never be duplicates within that field, and it can never be left blank. So you can see there's no duplicates here. And what I want to do is I want to be able to identify in each table the primary key, and then in a foreign table or another table, create a field, what they call a foreign key. A foreign key or a foreign field is a field that you create that has the same data type that you can link to another table. Now, you want to do this before you start entering in records. In other words, you want to build your tables. You want to enter in like the employees table, the first name, last name, and all that. And then at the end, you want to start thinking about what type of foreign field can you put in one table that's going to link to a primary key in another table. And I know we didn't cover that earlier on in the training videos because I wanted you to get a feel for the tables, how to design a table, how to enter records into a table. It's not all lost if you create a database that has millions of records in there and then all of a sudden you decide you want to create relationships, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to create them in the first place. But for the sake of this training here, I wanted to introduce you into tables first before we talked about relationships. Now that you know how to create tables and create fields, we want to talk about creating these foreign fields. So let's say I want to create a relationship between the employees and each computer that each employee has, that we assign to each employee. So later on maybe I want to do a query to find out how many employees we gave a computer to back in 2005 or earlier, so we can go ahead and update their computers or give them new computers. So I want to link these tables up. Because when I double click and open up the computers table, right now it just gives me the asset tag number, the date received, the purchase price, and warranty. It doesn't tell me which employee they're assigned to unless I create, as you see here, a field that's going to link to the primary key in the table I want it related to. So back to the computers, if I don't create these fields, I have to look in both the employees table and go, let's see, Max Klinger here, which computer does he have? And I go to the computers table, I don't know which computer he has unless I actually create a foreign field here that identifies that employee. Of course, this identification is by employee number, so all I have to do is go, let's see, employee 4, go back to the employees table, employee 4 is Homer Simpson. Now that's really inefficient if you have to open up each table and do that back and forth, back and forth. No, again, creating an Access database is a process. We've got to be able to create our tables, be able to create form fields that will link to primary key fields, so we can actually link those tables together. So when we start doing fancy queries, reports, and forms, it'll pull all that information in for us, and it will filter out what we don't want. So for example, when I pull up this table, the department code's pulling up, right? But what if I just want the employees' names here to pull up, and also the computer's information, like the date that they received the computer? So I can let them know they're going to get a new computer if it's earlier than 2005, or maybe the same year 2005. I don't need the purchase price, I don't need the warranty. So after I create these links or relationships, I can actually create a query that will filter out what I don't want and bring in what I do want. So we're back to square one again. I've got the employees table and I have the computers table. Each employee has a computer, so how do I go ahead and create a foreign field in the computers table that's going to link to the employee ID in the employees table? Well, it's really simple actually when you think about it. The employees table has a unique identifier, the primary key. And remember, whenever you create a relationship, it's going to be from a foreign field in another table that's going to always link to the primary key in the main table here. And the primary key field here is employee ID. Well, what table can I link to that, or what table do I want to link? I want to link the computers. So I come to the computers table here and I added an employee ID field. So I can go ahead and right click on the computers tab, and let's go to the design view and let's break this down. When I start creating my tables, we know how to do that. We add in the name of the field, we add in the data type, and then over here you can add the description if that helps, like the asset tag is a unique identifier assigned to each computer, or the barcode. And the reason why you probably want to add a description is later on somebody else who's going through your database and working on it who has no clue what these names are, you can give them a description. The description has nothing to do with your database in that it's just a bunch of text to let you know what that field is being used for. So the manufacturer ID is the ID number of computer manufacturer, the date the computer was received, the purchase price, and so on. So what I did is I came down here and I said, I want a foreign field here that I can relate this table, all the computers within this table here, to an employee so they match up. So when I create an employee and I assign them a computer number, these two tables relates their employee name to the actual computer number or the asset tag. So I create what's called a foreign field. The reason why, again, it's a foreign field is because I'm going to link this field later on. There's a special screen that we can go to that we can actually create these links. Not here. Right now, all we want to do is create fields that we can see down the line that we're going to relate to a primary key in another field. Now, when you create a foreign field, it has to match the primary key field by data type. You can type in whatever name you want. In fact, I can delete this and just call it employee ID. I mean, it is referring to the employee ID, right? Let me click on the employees table. It's got employee ID, it's just spelled differently. Let me go back to the computers table here. So it doesn't matter what the field name is as long as the data type's the same, but to avoid confusion, I recommend that you keep and you name your foreign key fields that you're trying to link up to your primary key fields in another table the same name, okay? So employee ID and the data type has to be the same. This one is number. Well, first let me save this. Is the employee ID primary key field, what number is that? Is it a number? Is the data type text? Is it the date and time currency? So I go back to the employees field. How do I find out from here? I'm going to right click and go to the design view, and then the employee ID is a number field. Excellent, it's a perfect match. The only exception is that if this was the auto number, remember the auto number automatically generates a number every time you enter it in a new record sequentially. So if you're on record 5, you enter a new record, it automatically pops in the number 6, then it goes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The operative word here is being number. So you can link a number field, a foreign key field, to an auto number field. That's totally fine. Again, the operative word being number in the auto number and just number. Let me click off in a blank area. So what I've done in the computers table, I'm going to go back, flashback, stay with me, employees ID with the same data type. And then in the employees table, it matches the same data type and it's got the same name for tracking purposes. That's simple. Well, by the same token here, in the employees table, I created a department code. I don't know what department codes are, 100, 200, 300, if that's HR, if that's the IT department or customer service. So let me go ahead and double click and open up the departments table. I have the department code and then I have the department name, okay? So what I've done is in the employees table is I added the foreign key field, meaning just a simple field that I want to be able to link to later or relate to later in another table. And the primary key that I'm going to link to in the department table is the department code. Again, if I go ahead and right click and I go to the design view, there's the primary key here. That's what I'm linking to. The second step is what's the data type that I'm linking to, because I have to link to the same data type. This says number. So I go back to the employees table and it also has number. It can't be text, it can't be memo, it can't be date and time. It's got to be the same data field type, as in the other table I want to relate to its primary key. Okay. Well, let me go back to computers now. I also wanted the table to relate to the manufacturer, because I don't want to store all the manufacturer's information in here. Manufacturer's name, their address, their shipping methods, all that stuff. In fact, the shipping method could be a separate table in and of itself, because then you're talking about FedEx, USPS. So what you do is you create a separate table with the shipper's name, their address, and then you create a unique ID to identify each shipper and have that as your primary key. Like UPS is going to be, you can do auto number, like that's the first record, the second record, or unique ID that says UPS and FedEx FED. So that could be a separate table. I also want to keep track of the manufacturers, but not all in the computer's table. So I went ahead and I created a foreign key, and I just typed manufacturer ID here, and the data type I set it to was number. Now, is that correct? Well, let me see. Let me open up the manufacturers table. Let me go ahead and right click and go to design view and left click on it. Here we go. The manufacturer ID, again, I want to relate to the primary key field. You're almost always, 99% of the time, going to create a field in one table to link to another. It's always 99% of the time going to be the primary key, okay? Keep that rule of thumb. When you get fancier with your databases and you figure out other things, I say go for it. But for now, we're sticking with the basics. So it's linking to an auto number. Well, in the computers table, it's number. The manufacturers, it's auto number. That's fine. The operative word is number. So later, when we go to that special screen that we can start clicking and dragging and creating these relationships, it won't have a problem with it because the data type is essentially the same. They're both numbers. Now, my database has records already in them. So not only do I have to have the same data type, I just need to make sure before I create these relationships that if I go to, let me go to the manufacturers and double click on that. I have manufacturers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The data type is auto number, the operative word being number. Now in my computers table, let me click on that and let me right click and change it to the data sheet view. I have the manufacturer ID here, don't I? It's number. I have 1 through 5. So manufacturers, I've got 1 through 5. Computers I have, well, they're spread out, but 1 through 5. I have the same data type. If I create a number in here, number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I don't put it in the manufacturers field before I create the relationships, after I create the relationships or try to, it's going to say forget it, buddy, because we don't have something that relates to that, a number 6, 7, or 8 that you have in your computers table. So that's why it's important before you enter in any records that you create your tables, create your foreign key fields in one table that you know you want to link to as to the primary key in the other table so you can link your tables up. So you can pull the bits of information out of each table without pulling all the information at once when you do a query. So I'm safe right now because the numbers I have here when I create the relationships between the computers table and the manufacturers, they have the same data type numbers and they also have the same data, at least one of these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.